We've built plenty of villages here in my creative world, and I think it's time to finally create something more in line with a city. I'm also wanting to challenge myself and try building in a style I have essentially no experience in, and dude, words cannot contain my excitement, so let's just get started, mate. Alright, so this new style that I'm wanting to try out is going to be Gothic Architecture. I've built like maybe 1 or 2 builds vaguely in this style, and so the first step of course is going to be Googling it, and what the fuck, man? Come on, dude, but I'm not a robot. Oh, dude! Dude, you see that? Like, you never know if you want to count that as a motorcycle or not. Like, I mean, I guess it's part of it, so. All right, Gothic Architecture. Let's head into images, and we just want to get a general idea. See, all these look really cool, but I think I'm wanting more of like this kind of style, like dark Gothic. So let's maybe refine our search to like dark Gothic Architecture. Yeah, so this is kind of like the style I'm wanting, like really, like lots of pointy shit, like pointy roofs, maybe not buildings this extravagant, but more like, let's maybe add house on the end and just see if there's any, yeah, this kind of stuff. Like, that's perfect. That is actually really nice. So what we're gonna do, we like this, we're gonna copy it, and I'm gonna add it to my little inspiration chart here. Bang, there it is. Let's maybe find another house similar to this one that we might be able to replicate in Minecraft. Yeah, something like this. Look at that. That's so like interesting of a style. That's pretty cool. Now, something that I recommend doing if you're trying to learn a new style, but I don't really recommend if you already know the style, I guess, is to look at other Minecraft builds in this style just to get a general idea, okay? Just see what they do, like maybe to create those points on top of the houses. So you can see they use like an andesite wall or whatever, and then a fence. I generally don't do this because if you find something that's really cool, it's kind of hard to get that out of your head and like not just straight up copy it, you know what I'm trying to say? All right, and now we are here in my creative world, and it is time to get started. First of all, of course, we need to find a location. Now, already I am kind of looking at this area. I do actually really like this. The only pain is that we're not going to be able to really build on any of this because it's all just a big fucking slope, you know what I'm saying? I like the idea of having like a seaside Gothic city. So I would like to use this cliff, but it is very high up. Give me a minute. I'm gonna figure out why this shit isn't loading properly and I'll find a spot too. Okay, so I'm going with my gut and I'm gonna choose this spot, but we're gonna do some heavy terraforming with the help of Axiom here. So the first thing I want to do is just generally lower all of this terrain a bit. It is very high up off the ocean, so what we're gonna do for that is use the old elevation tool, of course. We're gonna change the mode over to lower. Now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna start holding left click and start lowering this terrain until we get to a height that I'm happy with. Yeah, like that. So now that we have this height, we can change this over to flatten, and as long as we start clicking on this on the level that we're wanting, it'll now lower all of the terrain to that height. So that's how, okay, and now, because this is taking forever, we can change the rate and make it 32 instead of 8, and that's gonna go a lot quicker there. Okay, and there we have the area that I'm wanting to work with. Obviously, this over here is not finalized. We need to definitely refine that quite a bit. Okay, now you can see we have a little bit of a problem where there's heaps of floating grass and there's grass all on this, and it's just feral, man. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna head to the script brush tool and we're gonna change the preset over to clear foliage. Let's increase this bad boy quite massively, and we're just gonna encompass this entire frickin' area. Bang, it's already all gone, okay? Even all the floating crap is gone. Beautiful. So here is the kind of general area that I'm wanting to work with for our city. And obviously we're not wanting to just keep it completely flat like this. And so that's where we pretty much just want to introduce a little bit of variance to all of the heights of the village. So what we might want to do is select a height over here and then just kind of bring this out and create like a bit of an elevated plane kind of area up here. And then maybe branching off from this, we could have a secondary height out here, and that could maybe taper off over this way, just something like that. We might even get a third plane. Yeah, that's a pretty cool, like, little tiered way. We can get our pathway kind of snaking up along there to get up to the top. Maybe have a staircase on here. That's looking pretty cool. Dude, it's almost winter here in Australia, and I'm sweating my ass off once again. I'm not gonna showcase that again like I did last time, okay? I'll spare you guys the gory details, but I'm just telling you, it's there. I can see it on the chair. The sweat is flowing out of each of my ass cheeks right now. Okay, what we want to do now is change over the terrain to grass. So we're going to get the painter tool. We're going to set this to, I don't know, what are we setting it to? Now we're going to paint this on. And now having it as a cylinder like this means that it isn't going to paint the blocks below it. All right, there we go. We've now got some nice grassy plains. You might be able to notice there's a bit of a weird color change through here, which is actually a river biome. So to fix that, we got the biome painter. There's a solution for everything in Axiom, okay? God's sake, man. All right, let's get the plains. We're gonna fill this bitch vertically. We're just gonna make this huge and just kind of encompass this whole area and just make sure everything here is plains. Bang, once we let go, there we go. The colors are all now nice and uniform. Bloody fucking beauty, I reckon. Okay, so here is our city's landscape so far, looking actually pretty nice. Now, obviously it's not gonna be staying completely grass like this. We're gonna be adding plenty of roads and stuff throughout this, and dude, I'm pretty excited. Like, on top of not knowing the style, I haven't really built a proper like city. Like, it's more villages like this kind of stuff. I guess that's the most city closest thing that I've built with the big roads and stuff, but I think this is gonna be pretty different. I'm hoping. All right, well now, I don't really know if we should get started with the roads first or try actually building some houses. Let's just start off with a house, I reckon. So I've got this image open to the left on my left side monitor here. I don't know why the direction matters, but it's there, okay? And we're gonna try and choose some blocks that are close to this. I'm thinking obviously deep slate. All right, let's get started on this house. I think what I'm gonna do just to get my bearings is I'm gonna try and actually match this existing house here. So it's got a bit of a foundation and I'm gonna make that out of stone bricks. Now on the left side here, we have this kind of hexagonal, I don't know what fucking shape it is, dude. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna call it a hexagonal shape, okay? And so to emulate that, let's get our basalt pillars up. We will, of course, get our foundation to encompass this area. Yeah, that should work pretty well for that little area there. I'm also wanting to definitely build these houses at the scale of the player. So, like, for the door, I'm gonna use an actual door. I'm not gonna have, like, a massive door, like a lot of builders seem to do, which I honestly I'm not a big fan of, but I understand it. Like, I don't want a doorway this big, okay? I want a doorway like this. So that's what we're gonna be doing, all right? And that's already got me feeling that this is already a bit too big. We'll see how we go. We'll see how we go. Let's maybe make a double wide door like that for now. So at least that gives us that kind of area, and we'll put some stairs above the door. Now we do have a bit of a balcony, so I'm gonna move this back a couple blocks. That should be a pretty good size, I'm thinking. Above this, we'll add a similar style kind of roof here, and then we'll go up an extra layer, and then our balcony will kind of be on this level here. All right, so now as for our wall texture, we're going with this tough andesite and stone, which I don't know is going to be the greatest combination because the tough is a little bit different there. Yeah, the tough does stand out a little bit too much. We might even just stick to stone and andesite and see how that goes. We can always just easily change it later with Axiom as well. Now above these windows, there's like a little bit of a roof, I guess. So we might try and see if we can add something similar in. We might even frame this up with some of these and then add a little bit of a bottom like that too. And then we can, of course, just clone this up to this window too. And that gives us some pretty nicely detailed windows. If we wanted to go, you know, sicko mode, we could of course add some pots in there. And to keep with the Gothic style, of course, chuck a wither flower in, bang bang. And of course, in the reference, there is windows along this wall here, but we're not going to be able to really do that. All right, well, the rest of this is going to be pretty self-explanatory from here. So I might get the rest of this house built as a quick little bit of a time lapse. So let's get to it. All right, so continuing on, I built up the tower that's right in the middle of the house, along with getting some elegant window design slapped on. After that, it was time to figure out the roof, which actually quickly became the most challenging part of the entire build. We had the roof for the hexagon part, the roof for the main house, which was at the 2 different heights, and of course the roof for the tower. And once that was thankfully all sorted, I simply returned to the walls of the house to figure out some interesting designs for the windows using dark oak wood, which turned out quite nice actually. After filling out all the walls, I moved on to the front and sprinkled in some various details like hedges out the front. Okay, and there it is. There is the completed first house. Now, final thoughts. It did end up being a little bit different from the reference. So a little bit too late into the build, I realized that this hexagonal part is a little bit too big for the house, and that's when I actually ended up extending, like adding this whole section onto the house, just to kind of balance it out a bit more because it was a bit strange beforehand. Also, the elephant in the interior here, I'm not doing them, okay? I'm planning on building a couple of different variants of this house, along with plenty of other builds, and I just simply do not have the time to get to them, unfortunately. That is just the downside of, you know, posting weekly videos, okay? I can't exactly get everything done, unfortunately. But just to give the illusion of an interior on the outside, I have added those floors there so you can see them, and then also some glowstone that you can kind of see through the windows that'll emit some light at least. But yeah, that is the first house all done. Actually turned out way better than I thought. My first ever Gothic style house, and I'm pretty happy with it, man. There's some things that, of course, were a bit weird, like this roof up here I didn't really know what to do with, but all in all, pretty good. Now, looking at the size of this house compared to the area we have, you might be able to just kind of glance at it and, you know, realize that we're not really going to be able to fit that many houses through this area. So we're going to have to bump up the size of our area considerably, okay? If we want this to be a city at least. So what I'm actually going to do is go ahead and select this house with Axiom here. We're going to use the box select tool and just try and encompass the entire house like so. Sorry, I don't know why I went all like ASMR voice there for a second. Now what we're going to do is Control C that bad boy. Then we're going to go Control P. Yeah, that's the one. And then this is actually saving this as a blueprint. So we're going to be able to paste this in really quick and easily when we're building our city, because we're going to be pasting this a couple of times, of course. Okay, now with that blueprint saved, it is time to scale up the area considerably, okay? I might just get this done as another real quick time lapse, so let's get to it. Okay, so here is our new and improved area. If we now go ahead and paste our house in, you can kind of see, yeah, now it's at a scale where we're going to be able to actually put in quite a lot of these houses around the place, okay? And that's how, like, you know, we're going to be getting a freaking city in here, okay? Also went ahead and added a bunch of these little, like, pinnacles and stuff. That's because I actually plan on adding, like, a big stinking lighthouse here. And now it just kind of makes sense having all of these little things everywhere. That's what the lighthouse is warning you about. And, of course, obviously, the land itself. Now, I don't really know how, like, coastal stuff works, having, like, I'm just kind of mimicking how there's like a line of stone around the cliffs here. That's kind of what I'm going for with this. Yeah, you know. Oh, one thing I forgot to do, the biome painter. Biome painter, you bloody bastard. Get all that back in there. Beautiful. Okay. All right, well, now that we have the general size of our houses, like, I'm thinking... Can I paste it in? Thanks, bro. Thank you. I'm thinking most houses are going to be at this kind of size. So we can kind of use that to plot out our land, get our pathways added in is basically what I'm trying to say, okay? We can kind of plan out like areas where we want like maybe like forest kind of land. So I'm just going to paste this house in for reference so we can just have that there. And so for our pathways, I'm thinking the painter tool is going to be much easier than what I would usually use, the actual path tool where you can kind of draw along. Actually, just forget what I said. We are actually going to use the path tool. The only annoying thing with the path tool is going up slopes. It's like a bit of a pain in the ass, but it's not that bad, okay? All right, so I've left this little divot here. This is where our pathway is going to connect over. Like, we're going to build a bridge eventually, and it's going to connect over from this pathway over to this one, okay? Oh my God, I need to do something about this terrain. That's quite rank. Smooth tool to the rescue. Chuck him over there. Bang. That's pretty good. All right, back to the path tool. We need to figure out the size of our path. I'm thinking like a 5 wide path or something like that. Yep, that's the perfect size right there. I don't know what that actually is. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's actually quite big, but that's fine. Oh, or do we go one smaller? Yeah, we go one smaller. Okay, continuing on. So yeah, the cool thing about the path is that we're able to set these points, and obviously it's going to connect to it. But the cool thing is that we can adjust these points after the fact. And like, say I don't really like this curve here, what we can actually do is go back and edit this, and we can even add points in between those if we want to smoothen the curve out even more. And then we can go back to adding points if we click at the last one, and then just continue, you know, clicking along and adding our path in. Now, I'm pretty happy with this segment, so I'm just going to confirm that and paste it in like so. That's looking really nice. Now, I'm wanting... Oh, we need to fix this water. We need to fix this water. I'm going to do this with welded / fix water, and then the radius. I'm just going to go with smack bang 50. We're going to have to do this for all of these areas as well. It's just a trade-off of using the elevation command. Okay, the rest is looking good. Okay, so this is the fun part of where we need to figure out, you know, the layout of our village, essentially. I am wanting to add, like I said, a lighthouse here. So let's just go ahead and add a path that'll branch off from here. And I think it'll lead to here. And then I reckon I want to have a big main path that's going to run along this way. So let's get like a little bit of an intricate kind of organic feeling shape. And this house is actually right in the fucking way, you prick bastard. So I reckon this will run along to here, and then we'll curve this up and eventually add the pathway going up to this area, where I think all of up here is going to be like residential, all of this kind of area. Now, the rest of this is going to be kind of self-explanatory, and I feel like it's getting a little bit boring at this point, so I'm going to continue doing this as a time lapse once again, so let's get to it. Alright, that is a pretty cool looking layout. I'm very happy with that. Obviously, it might not make much sense to you right now, but to me, I can see the city in my head, okay? So I use this kind of like, what remains of the house that I pasted in here. I use this as kind of the template, and, you know, we're going to be putting houses in all along these roads and stuff. So now, the only thing that really remains, like the bulk of the work, of course, is going to be building the frickin' houses, man. I've only got one built, and this thing took like, oh my god, dude, this thing took forever to build. So now it is time to get a couple more variants created. Obviously, we're going to be able to flip these. Yeah, there we go. So see, that's flipped. So whenever we build a house, we're going to be able to flip it and kind of use that to our advantage to make kind of more variants of houses, if you get what I mean. So it is time once again for another time lapse. This time we're going to be able to, this time I'm gonna speak English, brother. This time, okay, we're gonna be building a bunch of different Gothic house variants. Smaller ones, a little bit maybe bigger ones, different types. Let's get to it. All right, so for this house, I was following that second reference image we gathered earlier, and so after raising up the pillars and getting the front walls on, I started on the weird and wacky roof that I wanted to replicate. And after getting the left half completed, I simply copied and flipped it onto the other side to complete the roof. And I then just finalized the house with some extra details. For the next house, I actually felt we could use the first one we'd created and simply do some cutting, duplicating, and flipping and pretty easily get a brand new house. Okay, I actually got my ass into gear with this next one, deciding to get a bit of a smaller house design that we could use to fill in gaps around the residential areas. There's honestly not too much special about this house. I went with a bog standard stair style roof along with some roofed areas below on the front wall. I also used dark oak wood for all of the window details along with plenty of greenery to bring it to life. Alright, here's another look at the houses that we made. This is the first one here with the weird wacky roof. The second one that was, yeah, again, a little bit of a cop-out as we just used the existing house, but it still turned out really nice. And then the third house that we built, a bit of a smaller one, also turned out very nice. And, well, now what I think it is time to do is get started on some other types of buildings, okay? You know, a city doesn't just have houses, it's got plenty of other things, including, you know, maybe a Gothic city might have a cathedral or, you know, some stuff like that. And I'm honestly, I'm very scared to get started trying to build a freaking cathedral, man. Like, oh, dude, I don't even know where to start. I've never built anything like this before. Like, this is like the reference that I'm going to be using, and yeah, I have nothing else to say, so let's just get into it. Okay, obviously, first off, we need to choose a really nice spot for this cathedral. I want it to be pretty predominant and maybe central to the city. So this is pretty much the center of the city right here. So I'm thinking I kind of want it in this spot, but obviously it's going to be a bit hard to work with this pathway here. So I might change the shape of it a bit, make it a bit more straight so that we can fit a cathedral in here. And I also need to change up this landscape a bit too. So let's grab out the old painter tool. Let's set it over to grass and just delete this path a little bit here. Okay, so now we're working with this. Let's grab out the path tool once again. We're going to set it over to bloody cobble. I'll start placing in our path, making sure to get it a little bit straighter this time so we can actually work with this area a bit better. Okay, there we go. Now we have a much easier area to work with. What I'm also going to do is grab out the elevation tool, set it to flatten, and I'm just going to carve out a little bit of an area for us to add this cathedral. Honestly, I have no idea how big this is going to be, okay? I have zero freaking clues whatsoever. So I'm just kind of carving out I feel like a more area that we're gonna need, and we can of course just replace the terrain when we're done. You know what I'm saying? Okay, now it is time to get started building. I've got a couple of different blocks here. I've got some black stone and some deep slate because I don't know. I feel like this building needs to be darker than these houses, which are actually quite light with the stone. So I'm gonna, I don't know, I'll try a bunch of different kind of, you know, things, and we'll see how we go. Also, with the reference, I'm gonna be following it for like the details and stuff. I'm not gonna be exactly trying to match it, you know what I'm saying? But there's certain things that I really do like on the sides of the wall of the door, there's like kind of elevated little balconies. So there we go. We've now got our 2 windows in the door in the middle. Above this, on the 2nd floor, there is another balcony, which I'm gonna add in with some deep slate. I don't think there is actually a balcony there, but I may actually just do something like this and add maybe fences on front of that just for some depth and detail. So now let's stack this up quite a bit, just so we have a lot of room to play with here for this top window, which is gonna be quite intricate, I think. So maybe something like that. That's all right, I reckon. It's a little bit too thick in here, and I'm not really sure how we could actually de-thicken that. All right, happy with that. That looks good. I think I'm gonna use yellow stained glass here, and maybe just see how that looks. Hopefully it doesn't look like pee-pee. There we go. You can't even really see it, but that's our yellow stained glass, and we're gonna put plenty of lights behind that too. Now, let's clone this over. I know I said at the beginning that I'm making these builds at the scale of the player. I think this is probably gonna be one exception to that, okay? Because this thing's obviously quite huge. Like, it even spans out over onto the frickin' pathway, man. Holy mother of God. This might be too big. How are we looking from afar? Damn it, dude, it's pretty big. But it's meant to be, okay? Nah.
You know what?
It's meant to be big. We're sticking with it. All right, door time. We're removing this section, and we have an absolutely massive door here. Like, this thing's ridiculous. So I think what I'm gonna do, obviously, because we can't make this usable, I'm gonna maybe make it open a little bit. All right, so there is our door added in. I do also want to add like a little bit of an arch, but I think I might just get the rest of this done as a time lapse because honestly, I feel like this was the hardest part, getting the front wall. The rest of it's gonna be pretty cinch, I reckon. We do have a big tower that we've got to get to, and I may still actually play around with the sizing because getting this built along with the tower, that's gonna take up this entire freaking quadrant here, and that is just a little bit bigger than I'm thinking. So I'm gonna go over to the time lapse now, play around with the sizes, and get the rest of this bad boy built. So let's get to it. Okay, so to get the size a bit more reasonable, I shrink the length of the walls slightly and began working on the roof. After adding some pointy stuff at the front, I extended the roof a bit and then started pasting the side walls on, along with heading back to the front wall to add some more intricate details. Now, as for the big side tower, I first built up the walls, then started on the roof, which I was pretty afraid of, but honestly, I think it turned out really good. I then added some gables to the main cathedral roof and began adding more detail work to the walls with some deep slate tile walls and slabs. I then added some interior lights so we get that really nice glow shining through the windows. Now, time for my favorite part, the outside stuff. First off, I fixed up the path a bit, along with adding some more connecting to the cathedral. I planned on having a bit of a stinking graveyard around the cathedral, and first off, I built a mausoleum, which turned out pretty good. I then added some paths and got started building a giant fence that'd surround the entirety of the graveyard and cathedral. With that done, I got started on designing a few different graves that I then worked on copying and pasting around the entire graveyard. I don't know if it's weird or not, but this was definitely my favorite part of the entire build. Alright, now with the graves in place, I sprinkled in a crapload of grass and ferns, hand-placed some tall grass and ferns, and also began decorating a bunch of the graves with some flower pots. Overall, I think the cathedral, it is definitely very kind of basic level. I don't know. Like, there is so many amazing cathedral builds out there. I did not actually look at any of them, but there are, like, dude, this is like not amazing by a lot of people's standards, okay? So I apologize if this is a bit basic for you. This is probably as good as I can get in terms of a Gothic cathedral at the moment, okay? I definitely need to put a lot more work in. I think the tower, however, did turn out really nice. I love this roof as well. Like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. But where my strong suit did come into play was, of course, this nice outdoor lush area. Well, it's not that lush, you know, there's a lot of dead cunts in here. But the grass, the flower pots really just, I love that little detail, just sprinkling them in. And this freaking mausoleum, I keep calling it a mausoleum, like an idiot. I had to redo that voice line in the time-lapse a couple times because I kept calling it mausoleum like an idiot. Yeah, this turned out really nice. I'm pretty happy with this. And yeah, that is literally, like, this entire quadrant of the city is now completed, essentially. I didn't think that the cathedral would end up taking this entire area up, but, well, here we are, man. Oh my god, I forgot to add grass on this side. Whoopsie daisy. By the way, if you want to know, for some reason, how I'm adding the grass, we have a noise painter brush set up to add grass, ferns, and air air blocks, and that's all kind of scattering it along. I've also got this mask set up here to only replace the air above the grass. It's a little bit complicated to set up, but you get something really nice like this without having to do a lot of work, which is pretty good. All right, I think what it is now time to finally do is actually start filling out the city with a bunch of houses, okay? We've got plenty of spaces around the place that, you know, need to be filled. And so I'm gonna cram this bad boy full of as many freaking houses as I possibly can. So let's get to it. Holy snapping dog shit, dude. Look at this city. Holy mother of God. This turned out so much better than I thought it would. We're gonna take a look with the ortho. Oh my God, dude. The ortho camera mod. This looks so sick, man. Holy crap. Like, even though there's only like 4 different kind of houses throughout this entire city, I think I did a pretty good job of kind of interdispersing them and making it feel like there's a lot more different types of houses, I guess. But yeah, dude, I think that is all of the houses we're going to be placing. Obviously, we do still have this kind of stone front shore area. And now what I'm thinking of doing is honestly receding all of this back a bit to closer to the pathway. I still do want to get a lighthouse here, but I'm really happy with like the frame of this right here. Like, this is so good. And I think adding stuff along the kind of stone here might just end up looking weird. So let's go ahead and grab out, okay, that's definitely not an excuse for me being lazy, all right? Just shut the hell up, okay? I don't want to hear it. So we're gonna grab out the old elevation tool and we're gonna kind of just redo this area a little bit here. Then, of course, we need to fix up the water. So another way to fix up water when it's all kind of like connected like this, we can use the old flood fill tool. We can increase the limit quite a bit, and then we just simply select the level that we want to flood fill at. There we go. And as you can see, that just nicely fills up everything there. Now, obviously we do have some spots out here where it wasn't really connected, and you can't really use the flood fill tool against water. Like, it just, the option doesn't come up. So this is where I like to have world edit installed, and we go / fix water 50, bang, it's fixed. We just got to go around to every spot and just do this command in the water. Bang. I'm actually really liking this cliffside a lot more. Like, it's a lot more reminiscent of this. Instead of like kind of a gradual slope down, it's more like a really steep slope. All right, let's change this over to raise, and then we're gonna add back in the water all of our little like bits and bobs, okay? All right, and that's looking pretty cool. I'm happy with that. I think it is now time to get started on the lighthouse. So obviously we're not going to be going for like the standard white and red kind of lighthouse. We're going to be going, I think, with maybe a deep slate lighthouse here. And actually, let's maybe try making this out of shapes just to make it quicker and easier. All right, let's paste in a, not a sphere. What do we want? We want like a circular cylinder. That's the one, you fucking dickhead. Make this quite a lot wider. So this is going to be the base here, and then we're going to paste a copy so that way we keep our selection here, and then we can just move this up, change the diameter down to 7, make the height a bit longer. We're going to paste a copy once again. Let's move this up and shrink it down now to 5, and that I think is going to be the final height there. Bang. So there is our basic lighthouse shape, nice and easily done with the shape tool. Makes things so much quicker and easier. And so now let's try and get the kind of top area of the lighthouse built. I think it'd look cool if we had like these big kind of supports supporting the top of it like that. Let's go ahead and paste this on every single side. There we go. That's come along pretty nice there, I reckon. Okay, now let's go back to our cylinder. Paste that in smack bang in the middle. Make this down to 5. This is where our actual light for the lighthouse is going to be. You know what I'm saying? And then at the top here for the roof, we want like maybe a cone shape. Yeah, that's going to be good. Increase the diameter by 2, and then we have our roof right there. Bang. I do, of course, want to change a lot of these blocks over from the deep slate that they currently are, deep slate tiles. Let's replace these pillars with polished deep slate. In the middle, of course, we will replace this with the glass. That's looking pretty cool. Oh! We will also add a little bit of an iron bar fence along the top, and see how it's actually all connecting to the walls here as I place this. I have a really nifty trick here with Axiom, If you make sure you enable Tinker here, it allows you to right click with an empty hand on spots, and it kind of acts like the debug stick where you can detach stuff, but it's so much easier because you can just aim at what you want to get rid of or change and bang, it just does it. Oh dude, this is looking so good already. Holy mother of God. We definitely need to add in some windows, and I think that actually needs to be 3 blocks tall, not 2. Okay, and well, yeah, once again, you kind of get the point now. I'm just going to tidy this thing up, add some details, and get all those windows built, and we'll get that, of course, done as a time lapse, so let's get to it. All right, so continuing work on the lighthouse, I added some more details like deep slate walls in the corners, a front door, among a couple of other things. With the lighthouse done, I felt the coastline was very flat, so I added some lumps and bumps, which don't look great, but we fix this later. I also forgot about this empty spot, of which I felt a farm would fit quite nicely in. Now, it was time to add a crap load of spruce trees and the rest of all the blank spots around the houses, along the pathways, and in front of the cathedral. I then smoothed off those lumps and bumps, which looks much better, and then got straight into building a certain detail, like a barrel pile, and then copied and pasted it all around the city. I did this with bushes, piles of pots and barrels, and more. Holy crap, is this city looking so much better with just simply the trees. Man, like that adds so much, it's just insane. I also forgot to show it in the time lapse, but we also built this cute little dock here that I actually forgot to add some details to. Give me a second here. Okay, that's looking a lot better with those little couple of details there. Now, if we come down to kind of the street level of our city, you'll now be able to tell that we have a lot more details. Like I mentioned in the time lapse, you probably didn't get to see them very well, so here's a closer look. We've got piles of stuff like this, and we've got plenty of little bushes scattered around as well, and the trees, man, the trees! It's actually insane. Well, I think I already just said this before, but it's insane how much better this looks with trees scattered around, man. Holy crap. So this is a look from afar at our village, at our city, I should say, what the hell. And also with the ortho camera mod. Oh man, that's looking quite good, I must say. Right, well, it is time for the next thing, which I also actually completely forgot about. We need to connect this city up to the rest of my creative world here. Everything here that you can see is connected with pathways, so it's time to get that done with this next city that we've just added in. And so we actually have a very quick and easy way to make bridges that I'm going to show you right now. So we're going to be grabbing the path tool once again, set this over to the same block as our pathway, which is cobblestone. We're going to start right here, make sure it's the same size. Then I'm going to add another point here, and I'm going to bring this all the way out in a straight line using this arrow here to where we want it to connect to. Now, it's a bit annoying that we have 2 different heights of landscape here. So I think to get around that, what we could do is confirm that first of all, and then we could add some kind of like tower here that we can use to scale up and get onto the bridge. So we actually have pretty much almost exactly what I want right here in this village that we made in the first episode of this series. I'm actually going to paste it up here so I can clean up the surrounding landscape here and the actual tower itself. I'm going to middle mouse click to position this exactly where I'm wanting it, and we're just going to kind of do that. Bang. And then we have our entrance onto the bridge right there. Perfect. And now I feel like one massive arch is going to be kind of cool, I reckon. What we can do is with the path tool, let's select the middle of the bridge here, roughly. I'm just doing this with my eyeballs. Then I'm going to select down here where I want the arch to stop. And as you can see, obviously that's a straight line now. But if we change this from line over to Bezier curve, what we can now do is select this point and actually add a point in between these, and then we go. That's going to give us our arch, and we can obviously tweak the shape of the arch by moving this point around, and I think that's going to be pretty good right there. So we can actually tick use stairs and slabs to get more of an organic looking shape as well. So let's do that. Bang, dude, there is our arch. And with that one arch done, what we can of course do is copy and paste this onto the other side till we get to like probably right there. And now because I'm wanting this to be like kind of still a Gothic-ish bridge, I guess. Like we're not quite in the Gothic land over there, but I want this to be kind of reminiscent of Gothic, I guess. So we're going to add in a couple of little stylistic things to this bridge here that hopefully make it feel a bit more Gothic-y. And well, now what I'm going to do is just add a bunch of like arches and stuff in here and just add maybe like a railing on top, just kind of boring shit. So I'm going to get this done as a final time lapse right frickin' now. All right. Wow. I've never done that before, but I forgot to hit start recording like an idiot. But here it is. Here's the completed bridge. So like I said, I was going to add in some arches in here. I also added in a little bit of a fence along the entirety of the bridge too. And I also just duplicated this little tower and pasted it in over here. And that's pretty much it. The bridge is now completed. We now have a way to get over to the new city. Alright, and that is just about going to do it for our brand spanking new city in the Creative series. If you want to download this world and explore all of these cities and creations for yourself, be sure to check out my Patreon, as the download will be up over there. If you want to watch me survive 100 days stuck underground in Minecraft Hardcore, be sure to check out this video right frickin' here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.